You have been told a lie about sports, and you have believed it your whole life. The lie is that the team on the field is trying to win, not the game. The game, sure. The business already won, and it won the moment somebody signed the check to buy the team. Because the owner of your favorite team probably reported a loss last year. On paper, that franchise bled money. And that owner is now richer than they have ever been because of it. Stay with me, because once you see how this works, you can never unsee it. By the end, you're going to understand why a business that loses money is the single greatest thing a billionaire can own. Start with a number that should break your brain. In the summer of 2026, the Seattle Seahawks sold for $9.6 billion. Biggest price ever paid for a team in North America. Now the part that matters. The late Microsoft co-founder Paul Allen bought that same team back in 1997 for $194 million. So do the math with me. 200 million turned into 9.6 billion. That is roughly a 50 times return, 50 times your money. And the Seahawks are not even the champion of this. The Dallas Cowboys are worth around 11 billion today. Jerry Jones bought them in 1989 for 150 million. That is a 73 times return. Over that same stretch, the S&P 500, the thing your retirement account lives in, went up about 18 times. So Jerry Jones beat the stock market by 4-1 while running a football team that has won nothing of consequence in 30 years. That reframes everything. The Cowboys have been a punchline on the field and one of the best investments in modern American history on the balance sheet. Winning and losing games has almost nothing to do with winning and losing money. So how does a team that loses on the field and loses on its tax return make its owner a fortune? That is the machine, and we are going to take it apart piece by piece. Every piece is going to make you a little angrier. The first piece is the simplest. When a billionaire buys a team, they are not really buying a ticket and hot dog business. They are buying a membership card to the most exclusive club on earth. There are only 32 NFL teams. There are more billionaires in New York City alone than there are franchises on the entire planet. When supply is frozen at 32 and demand is every rich person alive, the price does exactly one thing. It goes up. Forever. That is the real product, not the team, the scarcity. And scarcity that climbs like this beats gold, beats real estate, beats almost any stock you could name. Since the year 2000, NFL franchises have outperformed the stock market, real estate, bonds, and even private equity funds. The people whose entire job is hunting the best returns on earth looked around and decided the best return was a football team. So you would think owners would want the team to look wildly profitable. Pump the numbers, show it off. They want the opposite, and this is where it gets clever. The owner wants the team to look like it is losing money because the profit is not in the yearly operation. The profit is locked inside the rising value of the franchise, and that gain does not get taxed until the day you sell. So while you hold the team, the smart move is to show as little profit as possible, pay as little tax as possible, and let the real fortune compound quietly in the background where the taxman cannot reach it yet. And the tool they use to manufacture those losses is the most beautiful loophole in the American tax code. It is called the roster depreciation allowance, and once you understand it, you will understand why owning a team is basically a legal cheat code. Follow the logic. When a company buys a machine, a factory, a delivery truck, the tax code lets it depreciate that asset. The truck wears out, loses value, so every year you deduct a slice of that loss from your taxable income. Normal accounting. A FedEx plane gets old. FedEx writes down a piece of it each year. Now watch the move. A baseball owner named Bill Veeck pulled off decades ago. He walked into the IRS and argued that the players on his roster were exactly like that FedEx plane. They are assets. They get older. They get slower. They lose value. So why can I not depreciate my players the same way FedEx depreciates its jets? And the IRS somehow said yes. Sit with that. The tax code lets owners treat human athletes, living people at the absolute peak of their physical lives, as depreciating equipment, like a photocopier slowly breaking down in an office. That is not a metaphor I invented to wind you up. That is the literal accounting treatment. Owners depreciate players like machinery. In 2004, Congress made it dramatically better. A law called the American Jobs Creation Act created what is known as the 115 Rule. When you buy a franchise, you can now write off close to the entire purchase price as a depreciating asset spread across 15 years. So buy a team for $3 billion, and you get to deduct roughly $200 million a year every year for 15 years against your income, for doing nothing, for simply owning the thing. Think about what that does. The team can be genuinely cash in the bank profitable, real money coming in. But drop this giant paper deduction on top, and suddenly, on the tax return, the team lost money. A ghost loss. No dollar actually left the building, but the tax man treats it as real. You want to see it in the wild? Look at the Brooklyn Nets filings from 2006. The team's own statements showed an actual cash loss of about $27 million that year. Survivable. But once they piled on the depreciation and amortization, the reported loss ballooned to $68 million. So more than $40 million of loss that year was pure paper. Nobody lost it. It was conjured out of the tax code. And here is what turns this from a quirk into a weapon. Most of these teams are structured so the loss flows straight through to the owner's personal tax return. That phantom $68 million loss does not just sit on the team. It rolls up to the billionaire who uses it to cancel out income from everything else they own. The real estate empire, the private equity fund, the tech fortune. The team's fake loss erases the tax bill on their real gains somewhere across town. That is the trick, and it is gorgeous if you are the one running it. You buy a trophy that is guaranteed to rise for decades. While you hold it, it spits out paper losses that shrink your taxes across your entire financial life. And when you finally sell, you collect a 50 times return. Heads you win, tails you win, and the scoreboard was never part of the equation. But at least the owner is spending their own money to buy the toy. That is the last part they fixed. They got you to pay for the stadium. Here's a number that should genuinely upset you. Between 1970 and 2020, state and local governments across the US and Canada handed over about $33 billion in public money to build stadiums and arenas for privately owned teams. And the median deal had taxpayers covering 73% of the construction cost. Nearly 3/4 of the bill for a building owned and run by a billionaire, paid by people who in a lot of cases cannot afford a ticket to get inside it. It has not slowed down. In 2024 alone, teams across pro sports proposed more than $13 billion in fresh public subsidies. The Buffalo Bills pried hundreds of millions out of New York State and Erie County for their new home, the largest public subsidy ever handed to an NFL facility at the time. The Tennessee Titans landed over $1 billion in public funding, and because that money comes from bonds paid back over decades, taxpayers are also on the hook for roughly $1 billion more just in interest. You do not only buy the stadium, you pay the credit card charge on the stadium. The way they pull this off is beautifully cynical. The owner walks into City Hall and quietly hints that without the money, the team might move to another city. No mayor wants to be the one who lost the beloved franchise, so the city pays, not because it adds up. It almost never adds up. Economists have studied this for 50 years, and they are about as united as economists ever get. One survey found 80% of them agree the costs of stadium subsidies outweigh the benefits. The civic pride story is the wrapping paper. The transfer of public money to a private billionaire is the gift inside, so the owner buys an asset that always climbs, generates fake losses that wipe out their taxes, and gets the public to fund the building. Hard to picture a better deal. There is still one more layer, and it might be the smartest of all, because this one guarantees they cannot lose even if they run the team like idiots. It is the media rights cartel. The teams do not really compete for money. They cooperate. In the NFL, the league negotiates its television deals as one giant block, then splits that money almost evenly among all 32 teams. Over $100 billion in TV contracts, carved up and passed out regardless of whether your team went to the Super Bowl or went 2-15. A total disaster on the field still collects the same enormous check as the champion. One analysis put it plainly. NFL teams rake in so much for media rights that it is almost impossible not to turn a profit whether they win or lose. The competition you watch on Sunday is real. The competition for money was quietly killed off a long time ago, and the rival owners are business partners splitting a guaranteed pot. The final piece locks the whole machine shut. The salary cap. You have been sold the cap as a fairness thing. It stops big market teams from buying every good player, keeps the league competitive, gives your small market team a shot. And fine, it does a little of that. But look at what it does to the money. The salary cap is a hard ceiling on the single biggest cost an owner has, paying the players. A limit on labor, agreed to by all the owners together, that guarantees the players can only ever take a fixed slice of the revenue. Everything above that line flows to ownership. Flip it around. Revenue is guaranteed by the TV cartel. The biggest cost is capped by agreement. When your income is protected and your largest expense is legally frozen, you are not running a risky business anymore. You are running a machine engineered to print profit. The cap is not really about fairness on the field. It is profit protection for the owners, wearing a jersey so you will cheer for it. Now you can see the whole board. The losses were the strategy. The winning was never on the field. And the reason none of it ever changes is that the only people with the power to change it, the politicians who write the tax code and approve the stadium deals, are the exact same people who want a luxury box, a photo with the star quarterback, and a team that never leaves their district. The system defends itself, because everybody who could break it is a fan first. So the next time you hear that your team's owner is losing money, you will know what actually means. It means the machine is running perfectly. Somewhere on a tax return, a real fortune is quietly getting bigger, tucked inside a loss that never happened. You were watching the scoreboard. They were watching the balance sheet. And the balance sheet won the whole thing before the season even started.